Hi there, and welcome to part 2 of the table tennis booster mega test by me, the Pong Professor. In case you haven't watched the first video, here is what's going on. I'm testing 6 different oil-based boosters. The Falco Tempo Long, the Falco Platinum, and then 3 versions of Haifu Sea Moon. That is the regular, the National Yellow, and the National Black boosters, as well as the Kailin booster. In the first video, I covered the boosting procedure, the appearance of the boosters, how quickly the boosters absorbed into the sponge of the Hurricane 3 test rubber, and the extent of curling or doming that the booster causes. The link to the video is provided in the description. In this video, I will discuss how the different boosters affect the playing properties of the Hurricane 3, focusing on the sound, speed, spin, and feeling. However, before proceeding any further, please take a moment to support this channel by subscribing to it, liking this video, and making use of the tip jar that is listed in the description. I make these videos in my spare time, and this video series has easily taken over 25 hours, not counting the testing itself. Thanks. Okay, let's proceed with the testing. First off, we'll establish the baseline, that is the playing properties of an unboosted 41-degree Hurricane 3 on the Tip-Har Samsonov Force Pro Black Edition test blade. Unsurprisingly, the unboosted 41-degree Hurricane 3 is a slow and very linear rubber that requires the player to generate the power. My forehand drives were quite slow, but controlled. The Hurricane 3 absorbs a lot of incoming energy, and there is no catapult effect, which renders the rubber suitable for blocking. The throw angle when looping is low, providing limited clearance over the net. Accordingly, a fairly upward motion must be used. Unsurprisingly, the unboosted 41-degree Hurricane 3 lacks power in loop-to-loop rallies. Considerable effort is required. It is possible to generate very high amounts of spin on forehand loops against pushes. However, the loops are often quite slow, and one needs either to place them in hard-to-reach places or be prepared for follow-up shots. And once again, the throw angle of an unboosted Hurricane 3 rubber is quite low. The unboosted Hurricane 3 grips the ball very well, allowing for surprisingly effective forehand flicks. The unboosted Hurricane 3 works pretty well on pushes due to its tackiness and because it is slow. However, the hard nature of the sponge sometimes complicates the contact. The unboosted Hurricane 3 works pretty well for blocking of high-powered loops due to its hard sponge and lack of catapult. It is very spin sensitive, however, but that can be exploited by countering the spin. The unboosted Hurricane 3 is an excellent service rubber, as one can precisely titrate the amount of input power going into the serve. Good feeling in the hand, however, is necessary to produce high spin levels. I will discuss the properties of each booster individually, but I can already tell you now that all of the boosters succeeded in increasing the speed of the Hurricane 3. All of them help facilitate generation of what I call easy spin, that is spin on medium impact shots such as topspins against heavy backspin or pushes. All of the boosters helped increase the throw angle, resulting in more safety over the net when ping, and all of them made the Hurricane 3 feel less brick-like. Okay, so the first booster we're going to look at is the Falco Tempo Long. The Falco Tempo Long actually does not have the best reputation as a booster for Hurricane 3, but interestingly enough, I rather liked it. This booster produces a notable catapult effect that speeds up the Hurricane 3 quite a bit, although not to the point where I would say it's a fast rubber. The FTL booster significantly softens the Hurricane 3, but beyond this I didn't get a different feeling in my hand and there was no click-like sensation. It was easy to feel that the FTL boosted Hurricane 3 is a little bit faster whilst blocking here during warm-up. The throw angle on forehand loops is noticeably higher, resulting in improved clearance over the net. Moreover, the shot trajectories are longer. The FTL boosted Hurricane 3 is clearly easier to use in loop-to-loop rallies, due to the longer shot trajectories, but also due to the higher throw angle. The FTL-treated Hurricane 3 produces spinnier forehand loops against long pushes. This is in part due to the softer sponge, but also due to a grippier top sheet. All in all, I felt like having a better contact with the ball. It's still not a very fast rubber though, so expect to place opening shots in hard-to-reach places or to do follow-up shots. The FTL-treated Hurricane 3 worked a little bit better than the unboosted sheet on forehand flicks against short pushes. Again, this is probably the sponge's softer nature, as well as the grippier top sheet that allowed me to guide the ball over the net with better consistency. The bouncier nature of the FTL-treated Hurricane 3 was apparent during blocking as I overshot the table on several occasions. Accordingly, I found it necessary to use softer hands or to step away from the table just a little bit. My pushes were loaded with spin, causing my practice partner to loop into the net or forcing him to loop with a softer stroke. The softer, grippier, and faster nature of the FTL-treated Hurricane 3 renders it an even better service rubber than unboosted Hurricane 3. All in all, the Falco Tempo Long is a booster for spin-oriented loopers. Next up, we have the Falco Tempo Platinum booster. Like the Falco Tempo Long, the Platinum results in a Hurricane 3 with a soft and grippy top sheet. Overall, however, the rubber is harder with less catapult and is slower. I enjoyed improved control whilst blocking with the FP boosted Hurricane 3 as the rubber can absorb more incoming energy due to its harder overall nature. The throw angle whilst looping is lower than with the FTL booster, but still enough to ensure sufficient clearance over the net, allowing for consistent loops. The FP-treated Hurricane 3 lacks a little bit of punch in forehand loop-to-loop rallies. Forehand loops against long pushes are quite spinny since the FP-treated Hurricane 3 grips the ball very well, but the shots are slower than with the FTL-treated Hurricane 3. Also, the throw angle is lower. The grippy nature and moderate speed of the FP-treated Hurricane 3 works superbly well on forehand flicks. For sure, I enjoyed some of the best consistency on this shop type among all of the boosted rubbers. Blocking felt much more solid with the FP boosted Hurricane 3 due to its harder nature. It also allowed for counter drives. Pushes, while comfortable, seem to have lower spin levels than the FTL-treated Hurricane 3. I didn't note any fundamental changes as it pertains to service. The FP-treated Hurricane 3 is still an excellent service rubber. All in all, I see the Falco Platinum as a booster for players who prefer a harder feel and who play closer to the table with a greater emphasis on blocks, drives, and short game. Next up, we have the regular Haifu Sea Moon booster. This is a popular Hurricane 3 booster. The feeling produced by this booster is relatively soft and muddled, and the Hurricane is bouncier and a little faster than the FTL boosted one. The characteristics on forehand drives, blocks, and loops are very similar to those of the FTL treated Hurricane 3. That is, good control and higher throw angle. As noted though, the regular Haifu booster is a little faster than the Falco Tempo Long. The regular Haifu booster is sufficiently fast that loop-to-loop rallies can be played fairly comfortably. The faster nature of the regular Haifu booster rendered it relatively easy to do opening loops against pushes. However, I felt like the loops had a little less topspin on them. My forehand flicks seemed to be a little bit more dangerous due to the higher speed of the booster. My pushes seemed to have a high amount of spin. Blocking was comfortable, but best with soft hands. The Haifu treated Hurricane 3 is still a great service rubber. Perhaps the serves were a little longer than with some of the other boosters. I'm sure some of you will disagree with me, but in my opinion, the regular Haifu is not that different from the Falco Tempo Long booster. In my opinion, it is a middle-of-the-road booster for loopers who want something a little bit faster than the Falco Tempo Long. Next, we have a really interesting booster, namely the Haifu Sea Moon National Yellow Booster. The National Yellow Booster produces some of the best hand feeling of all of the boosters. The Hurricane 3 felt sharper and produced hints of cracking sounds on drives and loops. This booster produces a noticeable catapult effect that propels the ball with additional speed, depth, and clearance over the net. The catapult feels as if it originates from the top sheet sponge interface rather than simply from a softer sponge. The Hurricane 3 treated with a national yellow booster feels a little harder than the Hurricane 3 treated with a regular Haifu booster, but with a more elastic top sheet. The throw angle is quite high and my forehand loops had more penetrating power. In fact, now I had to take care not to overshoot the table. Accordingly, the Hurricane 3 treated with a national yellow Haifu booster was the one that worked by far the best for loop-to-loop rallies. I really enjoyed this booster for opening loops against pushes. My loops were as spinny as with the Falco tempo long and the fastest of all of the boosters that I evaluated here. But the best part is really the feeling, the crisp and elastic feeling of this booster. I really enjoyed the crisp feeling that this booster gave me on forehand flicks, which were fast and decisive. Blocking near the table was crisp and fast and improved from mid-distance. I was often able to put my opponent under pressure. Although the contact whilst pushing also is crisp, I sometimes overshot the table simply because this booster makes the Hurricane 3 relatively fast. This booster allowed me to serve some long and penetrating serves, although they weren't perhaps as spinny as with some of the other boosters. In my opinion, the Haifu Sea Moon National Yellow Booster is an excellent booster for loopers. It offers a fantastic feeling and clear increases in speed and spin. Next up, we have the Haifu Sea Moon National Black Booster. I had very high expectations for this booster going into the test. Unfortunately, this booster proved to be very different than the National Yellow version. Indeed, the National Black treated Hurricane 3 felt far firmer and slower with minimal catapult and none of the crisp feeling provided by the National Yellow booster. As you might imagine, however, I enjoyed excellent control on forehand drives and standard forehand blocks. In general, I had to use more physical effort in order to accelerate the ball, especially from mid-distance. One really needs to have a strong physique in order to engage in effective loop-to-loop rallies. The throw angle is relatively low, which forced me to use a more upward motion on my forehand loops. This, in turn, rendered me more vulnerable on the subsequent shots. When timed right, I was able to produce high amounts of spin on my loops. Forehand flicks worked surprisingly good with this booster, probably due to its firmer nature and moderate speed. Locking, as you might imagine, was very solid since the Hurricane 3 treated with this booster is very firm and without catapult. My pushes were less consistent than with other boosters, probably due to the firmer nature of the Hurricane 3. I found it a little bit more challenging to generate high amounts of speed and spin on my long serves with this booster. As tested, I would recommend the Haifu Sea Moon National Black booster for physically strong players looking the table. However, I can't help but wonder if perhaps this booster needs more layers, a softer Hurricane 3, or faster composite blades in order to get its optimal performance. Lastly, we'll be looking at the Kailin booster. The Kailin booster, somewhat akin to Haifu's National Yellow booster, produces a slightly crisp sensation and cracking sound on ball impact. I enjoyed excellent consistency on my forehand drives. Blocks are controlled but not particularly fast. The top sheet felt grippy and elastic, and forehand loops had a higher arc and carried more spin than Haifu's National Yellow booster. However, full physical commitment is necessary because the catapult effect isn't as strong. Compared to Haifu's National Yellow booster, the Kailin booster lacked a little bit of power in forehand loop-to-loop rallies. It was relatively easy to lift backspin and put a lot of spin on the forehand loops. However, again, they were a little bit slow, so I had to be ready for follow-up shots. I was able to execute diagonal forehand flicks with high confidence, whereas down the line flicks required a little bit more feeling. All in all, excellent control. Forehand blocks weren't super fast, but that allowed me to put more power on the shots. Also, the grippier top sheet allowed for better counter drives from mid-distance. The increased elasticity of the top sheet allowed me to put a lot of spin on my pushes. The Kailin boosted Hurricane 3 felt great on serves. The serves were perhaps not as fast as with some of the other boosters, but they carried a lot of spin, perhaps the most of them all. The Kailin is an excellent booster for loopers playing relatively close to the table. It produces a crisp sensation and the top sheet is grippy and elastic. It resembles Haifu's National Yellow booster but is slower and a little spinnier. So there you have it, 6 boosters tested relative to an unboosted Hurricane 3. The boosters range quite significantly in their playing characteristics and fall into 3 groups. The first group are boosters that only result in very modest speed increases, retain a hard sponge and top sheet, and feel fairly dead. The extreme examples of this is Haifu's National Black booster and to a lesser degree Falco's Platinum booster. The second group are the middle of the road boosters like the Falco Tempo Long and the regular Haifu booster. They soften the sponge, resulting in a greater catapult and slightly faster Hurricane 3 that allows for easier spin production. The feeling on ball impact, however, is soft and muddled and not crisp. The third and final group comprises boosters that produce a crisp and elastic feeling that seems to emanate from the top sheet sponge interface. This group comprises the Kailin booster and Haifu's National Yellow booster. The Kailin results in a spinnier but slower Hurricane 3, whereas the National Yellow booster is the fastest and overall best booster in my opinion. You can read more details from this test in the blog article that is published by TableTennis11.com. The link is provided in the description. If you hang on for just a little more, you'll see 10 fun points that happened during this month-long test. Please remember to hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, and swing by the tip jar if you like this video. Until next time, keep ponging on.